Hi there, Jeremy. Welcome to your first set of essay corrections from IELTSpodcast.com. My name's Andrew and I work here as the essay corrector. Each time you submit 2 essays, I'll read through them sentence by sentence, give you some general tips along the way of how to produce good academic writing, as well as correcting as many grammatical mistakes as I can. So first of all, I can see that your essay is well structured. You've clearly done your reading and you know that we should layer it with an introduction, a general statement, and then some more specific discussions of data. One thing I will point out is that casualties does not necessarily mean deaths. Casualties just means people affected by. So it could be numbers of infected people, numbers of people who contracted the illness, or simply numbers of people affected by bird flu. So here we could say, the bar graph illustrates the global bird flu casualties over a 10-year period between 1990 and 2000. And here we don't need this bit, we can just say between 1990 and 2000 according to the World Health Organization. Here I would trim this down to overall. It can be seen that cases of avian flu rose significantly over the given period. And then maybe add, although a period of plateau is seen at the end. So let's say at the beginning of the period, or for the first 2 years of the period, the number of cases see, here we don't actually need the dates because we've only just said this. We've defined the range, and then we also have the first 2 years here. So a definition of the range plus the first 2 years is all really we need to know that this is true. So we don't need this. We could just say at the beginning of the period, or for the first 2 years of the period, the number of casualties remained at around 120,000. This was followed by a 10,000 increase in the number of people affected, or casualties, or infected persons. This too isn't necessary either, so we can just say in the number of infected persons reaching 130,000 in the year 1992, we could say we could just put a comma here and say remaining stable in 1993, or and further remaining stable in 1993. However, the figure rose by approximately 10% per year in the succeeding 3 years from 94 to 96, with casualties from bird flu ranging from 140,000 to 160,000. Turning to the last quarter of the decade, comma, the figure for people infected with bird flu, or people who contracted bird flu, reached a plateau of over 170 cases after surging, well, let's not say surging because that implies it was a bigger jump than the others, maybe climbing, after climbing by another 10% from the year 1996. So we don't need rise and the verb here because they both mean the same thing. We could just say climbing by another 10% from the year 1996. But overall, your format is spot on. You clearly know what you're doing. All I would do is listen carefully to when what I said differed from what you had written. This essentially represents the ideal version of that sentence. It helps to correct your own work using these audios so that you can really get to grips with where your mistakes are. Especially in a few essays' time, you'll be able to see which mistakes you're making most frequently. But let's move on to your task 2. So these task 2s are what students normally struggle most with. The academic writing component requires that you are perfectly formal, logical, and that you reason well. As well, there are a set of requirements that you must fulfill that students usually are just not aware of. So one of these essay types, a discursive essay, the 3 things required in the introduction for a perfect score are a discussion of the contention, so what are both sides of the argument, so you have that. A discussion of your opinion, you have that. But also we should briefly outline the ideas that you will use in your body. So here you discuss experience and skills resulting in opportunities in the future. And here you talk about the reduced risk of redundancy. So where you say here, I believe, I'll tell you what, I'll correct the grammar shortly, but what we should do is use a due to the benefits for job security or career security, which is this one, and better opportunities. So I would say here, I would use the first sentence to discuss the contention. I would say, many people support the idea that a person should remain in one career throughout their lifetime, whereas others support changing jobs at least once. Personally, I side with the latter view due to the benefits for job security and opportunities in the future. That way, the reader is aware of what the discussion is, where you fall on it, and how you will discuss that here. So there are no surprises. So everything you write about here has already been mentioned here, and everything you write about here has already been mentioned here. This is what it means to be consistent throughout the essay, to maintain a position all the way through. So on the one hand, first and foremost, people need to develop a range of experience and skills. Good. A person should consider collecting a variety of work experience, as this could help them. Let's try to slim this down a bit. Let's just say a person with a variety of work experience will be in more demand, or will be in increased demand from a greater number of companies. It's always good to express your point in as few words as possible, to be precise, to write with brevity. Brevity is the quality of using as few words as possible to express ideas. It is said that brevity is the soul of wit. Let's also try to condense these 2 sentences into one. So for example, becoming a CEO requires a range of skills and work experience in order to effectively lead a company. Here we could use a semicolon because this is a continuation of this sentence, but it is a completely separate sentence. So if we want to separate 2 distinct sentences that are very much related, that could be considered the same sentence, then we use a semicolon. So in order to effectively lead a company, let's say the crucial nature of this position maybe we could actually just extend this. So for example, becoming a CEO requires a range of skills and experience in order to effectively lead a company due to the fact that a single mistake made by a CEO may result in the collapse of the company. For this reason, the position of CEO is only given to employees with reputable work experience and sufficient employment history. What I would say is we try not to use gender-specific pronouns if we are not referring to the gender, if it's not a specific person. So you can either use his or her, or you could pluralize up here and say people who are given CEO positions, and then you could use their, THEIR. Thus, a skilled and experienced worker has the advantage of securing higher positions in many industries. Slightly better phrase order. Secondly, in this fast-changing world, workers must be flexible. I tend to replace needs to or need to with must as frequently as possible. It just sounds better. So let's have a look at this one. We could say, if a current employer faced bankruptcy, it is important for an employee to possess a set of skills that could be valuable to an alternative company. And then we kind of cover this bit in alternative company. Or even if we just say a different company, we can assume that they'll be doing something slightly different. For instance, an employee who is laid off from an accounting job, let's state this in a bit more of a detached manner. So, for instance, an employee who is laid off from an accounting job but has teaching experience from university has the potential to be hired as a university professor. Then we need an explanation statement on the end. So we could then say, it is apparent, or it is evident, that possessing a wide variety of skills increases security in one's career. In conclusion, an employee should consider switching careers in their lifetime. Singular they, an employee they. While in speech the singular they is okay, it's actually used constantly. In formal writing, it's best to, if you find yourself using the singular they, it's best to pluralize whatever it was that it applies to. So here we should say, employees should consider switching careers in their lifetime, and then we have subject-verb agreement. Because they need to gain, or they must gain, a variety of experience and skills in order to maintain a competitive edge over those who remain in one job. Good. Your writing is actually very clear. That extra sentence is necessary there, and I would pay attention to the blending together of some sentences. It's normally only necessary to use 4 sentences per body paragraph. So if you find yourself using 5 or 6, consider squishing 2 together. Also remember the 3 things that are required in an introduction: contention, opinion, outline. But I'll send this over to you now. I look forward to your next pieces. All the best, Jeremy. Speak soon.